Adisa Temi woke before the first rooster call, palms already smarting from yesterday's chores. The compound's courtyard still wore night's cool breath, and the baobab's shadow stretched like a protective hand she was never allowed to hold. Marayo Ajoke stepped out, gold earrings glinting even in dim light. Water. Now, she said, voice clipped like shears. Akinwele Ajoke, in a deep blue agbada, yawned and didn't meet Adisa's eyes. They ate without her. When Adisa approached with a calabash of pap, Marayo slapped the bowl away. Clumsy child, she hissed. Pap splattered Adisa's dress, faded fabric with tiny vine embroidery that she'd mended a dozen times. Adisa knelt to clean. Again. She had trained herself to breathe through insult, to tend the tiny fire of dignity she hid under ash. Before dawn broke, Marayo announced new rules. Adisa would sleep in the storage shed, handle the market stalls alone, and surrender all proceeds. Akinwale grunted assent. Adisa said nothing. Her hazel eyes held steady. She tied her coiled hair in a simple scarf and walked to the well. On the path, the old griot nodded. Storms teach the sky to sing, he murmured. She bowed, not trusting her voice. Somewhere, a nightjar called. Somewhere else, a stranger rolled into town on a battered motorbike, dust lifting like a veil. Adisa didn't know that his arrival would redraw the lines of her life. The morning swelled with errands. Adisa balanced a basket of dried fish, palm oil, and yams, trekking to the market as the sun lifted pale and unforgiving. Marayo's list was a litany. Polish the brass, scrub the stones, haggle until your voice frays. Akinwale's only addition. Bring back more than you take. At the market, Adisa's calm drew customers. She measured spices by memory, laughed softly with the old women, and returned exact change to a boy who tried to short her. Honesty buys tomorrow, she said, the phrase her late mother taught her. By noon, she had sold everything. She tucked coins into a cloth purse and paused at a tailor's stall, eyes lingering on a simple indigo wrap. She did not touch it. Back at the compound, Marayo counted the coins twice, then thrice. Short. Her voice fell like a gavel. Adisa stared at the neat stacks. It is all of it. Akinwele sipped palm wine. She lies to your face, Marayo. The slap came clean and practiced. Adisa's cheek burned, but her back stayed straight. I will bring more tomorrow, she whispered. Marayo's lips curved. You will bring it tonight. Go again. Adisa turned, and in that turning, she revealed something only the baobab saw. A will that refused to break. The air shifted. In the distance, the motorbike's engine coughed to life. Night found Adisa in the storage shed, a place of mildew, sacks of cassava, and one small mat. She tucked her scarf under her head and traced the roof's rusted pattern. Rain began as a whisper, then beat a tattoo on the tin. She listened for comfort and heard something else, a rhythm like a heart outside a door. In the main house, Marayo and Akinwale argued about a land levy, voices low but sharp. We pay or we lose frontage, Akinwale said. Then make the girl pay with her back, Marayo snapped. The window shutter thudded, ending the conversation. Adisa remembered her mother's laugh and the old proverb, even the ant has a road. She closed her eyes and saw a different road, dust lifting, a motorbike riding through it, a rider with steady eyes. She shook off the vision. Hope in her life was expensive. A soft knock sounded. The old griot stood at the shed door with a small calabash. Baobab water, he said, for strength. Adisa drank, cool liquid washing the sting from her cheek. Storm's coming, he said. When it breaks, hold your ground. She rewound the scarf, edged closer to sleep, and didn't see the motorbike slow in the lane or the rider glance toward the compound, memorizing the way lamplight pooled beneath the eaves. Morning brought accusation. The brass is tarnished, Marayo announced, thrusting a tray forward. You slept while the house rotted. Adisa inhaled. I polished it last night. Akinwale tapped the tray with a ringed finger. Your hands say otherwise. The quarrel swelled like a drumbeat until words lost distinction. Finally, Marayo unfurled finality. You are no daughter of mine. Leave. The shock wasn't that it happened. It was how easily Akinwele agreed. Take what you came with, he said. Adisa looked at her mat, her scarf, and the memory of her mother echoing in the courtyard. She stepped into the lane with a small bundle. The baobab cast a dappled pattern over her shoulders like a blessing. Neighbors watched. None spoke. The griot's gaze held sorrow and purpose. Adisa bowed to him, then walked. At the town's edge, the motorbike sputtered to a stop. The rider removed his helmet, a tall man with deep ebony skin, short twists, and eyes that met hers without flinching. Road's bad after rain, he said, voice low. I can walk with you. She studied him. I am Adisa. He smiled. Tay. They walked in silence until a truck thundered past and splashed muddy water over her dress. She laughed, unexpected, bright. Tay handed her a clean handkerchief. Storms teach the sky to sing, he said. She looked up then, surprised. They reached the river footbridge, a thin wooden spine over murky water. An old woman struggled with a sack of millet, the strain turning her breath ragged. Mariah would have called it someone else's problem. Adisa placed her bundle down, lifted the sack with practiced grace, and crossed. The old woman pressed a charm into Adisa's palm, a tiny bead woven with raffia. For seeing me, she whispered. Tay watched, the set of his shoulders easing. Do you have somewhere to go? He asked. I will find a room in the lower quarter, Adisa said. Work at the seamstress for food. He nodded. There's a compound near the docks. Quiet, fair owner. I know him. He didn't add that he owned the entire block behind a veil of names. At the dockside compound, the caretaker greeted them. Rooms smelled of soap and salt. Adisa counted her coins. It's enough, the caretaker said after Tay's subtle nod. Adisa touched her cheek where yesterday's slap had faded to memory. Thank you, she told Tay. For walking. He shrugged. The road is lighter when shared. As he left, he paused. If anyone troubles you, tell them you are under my watch. He offered no details, and she didn't ask. Pride and caution had kept her alive. Gratitude warmed a corner of her chest she had thought closed. Adisa found work at a seamstress stall run by Auntie Nena, a woman with nimble fingers and blunt wisdom. She stitched school uniforms by day and wedding blouses by night, needle flashing like a small oath. Customers returned for her careful hems and the way she pinned fabric as if it were a promise. Tay appeared sometimes with errands, repair a collar, hem a sleeve. He paid fairly and stayed to talk with dock workers in their own slang. Adisa noticed the way people deferred to him without naming why. She kept her observations folded like spare cloth. One evening, a courier arrived breathless at the docks. Auction tomorrow, he said. Land titles and seized compounds. In a distant office, papers had been arranged like chess pieces. Tay studied the list and traced a line with his finger. The Ajoke courtyard, frontage at risk. He closed the folder and looked toward the seamstress stall where Adisa laughed with a child whose uniform needed a second chance. Revenge, he knew, could be a blunt blade. Or it could be a needle, patient, precise, leaving a mark that held. He bought bread and fish for the stall and left a little extra coin for the boy. No speeches, no revelation, only plans. Back at the Ajoki compound, tension ripened. Mariah's jewelry grew larger as their debts did the same. Akinwele gambled on chance and lost to arithmetic. When the notice arrived, red stamp, official tone, Mariah tore it in 2 and then 4, as if smaller pieces meant smaller consequences. Night fell heavy. She sent a cousin to the docks to sniff rumors of Adisa. Find out who shelters her, Mariah ordered. I will not have her laugh at me. The cousin returned pale. She is under a man's watch, he said. No one troubles her. Even the taxmen step sideways. Mariah's eyes narrowed. Which man? He shrugged. They only say Tay. Tay, Mariah repeated, tasting the name like a bitter herb. Akinwele waved a tired hand. Let it be. We will settle the levy. But there was no money, only bravado. Mariah set her jaw. Then we will get money. She sold Adisa's late mother's carved stool, the last piece of womanhood left in the house. The griot watched from the baobab's shadow, sadness hollowing his cheeks. You cannot pawn your shadow, he murmured, unheard. In the morning, a black SUV, rare in their town, rolled quietly past the gate. Its driver took notes. Its owner already knew the shape of the gate from memory. The auction hall smelled of paper and ambition. Men in crisp shirts and women in tailored wrappers lifted numbered paddles with hands that seldom touched mud. Tay arrived in a charcoal suit that made him look ordinary among wolves. Ordinary was the best disguise money ever bought. Lots moved quickly: a warehouse, a fishing boat, a cluster of stalls. When the Ajoke frontage appeared on the screen, Akinwale slunk in late, face taut. Morayo sat rigid, eyes glassy. The opening bid was sharp, the counter bids were sharper. Tay's placid face hid calculations. A man from the city tried to squeeze the price. Tay raised his paddle once and then did not blink. Silence fell, then folded. Gavel. Sold. In that moment, he could have smiled. He didn't. He signed papers with an unadorned pen and left before his name echoed. Outside, rain threatened again. He stopped at a roadside stand to buy bean cakes and asked the vendor about her son's school fees. He paid them quietly, as if wealth were simply a tool for straightening crooked fences. Back at the docks, he walked past Adisa's room and paused only long enough to hear her humming as she stitched. Revenge did not always look like thunder. Sometimes it wore a charcoal suit and moved like fog. Paper begets power. With the titles sealed, Tay met with the caretaker of the former Ajoke frontage. Respect the tenants, he said. Repair the well, no bribes, fair rent. The caretaker nodded, surprised at the sequence. He visited Auntie Nena's stall next. Could you use a larger space? Tay asked. The docks eat my thread, she said, half joking. Days later, a new stall opened with better light and sturdy shelves. Adisa looked up, startled. Who? She asked. Auntie only winked. A friend of the cloth. That evening, Tay invited Adisa for tea at a riverside canteen. The wind smelled of fish and rain. Will you ever go back? He asked. Adisa's hazel eyes studied the horizon. Home is where a person is not made small. She touched the raffia bead charm on her wrist. I will make my own. Tay's smile deepened, but he said nothing about the auction or the SUV. He offered advice on suppliers, on fair contracts. You think like someone who learned the hard way, Adisa said. He lifted his cup. I was taught by storms. Under the table, his phone buzzed with news. Akinwale had discovered the sale. Morayo's fury was smoke and mirrors. Their house now stood on ground they no longer controlled. Tay turned his phone face down. Tonight, he chose quiet. Morayo appeared at the docks like a storm with polished nails. You, she said to Adisa, voice carrying. Pack your lies. Come home and beg. People stilled. Auntie Nena planted herself between them. Here we sew garments, not wounds. Adisa stepped forward. I will not return, she said. Her voice did not tremble. Morayo's smile was thin. You think your unknown man can save you? He will tire. Adisa looked past her at the water, where pelicans skimmed and did not fall. He owes me nothing. Tay arrived, expression mild. Is there trouble? He asked. Morayo turned, assessing him. Are you the watchman? Sometimes, he said. Today I'm a customer. He bought 3 blouses he did not need and paid twice the price. Morayo scoffed and left, vowing she would come back with teeth. After she was gone, Adisa's hands shook only when she was alone. She pressed the raffia charm until it left a small crescent on her palm. Tay waited outside the stall, giving her space. When she emerged, he said, Courage is a muscle. She managed a smile. So is patience. In the Ajoki compound that night, Akinwale paced. Who bought it? He demanded. No one would say. The griot sat beneath the baobab and played a soft refrain, a warning wrapped in a lullaby. Rumors spun faster than Auntie Nena's bobbin. Tay is a fixer. Tay is a smuggler. Tay is nobody. The truth lay between. Tay Olumide, principal of a silent investment house, owner of blocks of property and debt, tired of loud wealth. He took Adisa to meet a lawyer, Ms. Kambili, whose office smelled of paper and lemon. "You are owed your mother's dowry chest," she said, after reviewing documents Tay had coaxed from old records, "and compensation for unlawful eviction if we press." Adisa's breath caught. "I want only what is mine," she said. Tay nodded privately. Revenge sharpened when aligned with fairness. They visited the griot. He pressed a weathered hand to Adisa's head. "Your mother planted you like a seed. Grow without asking permission." He looked at Tay. "And you? Be rain, not flood." That night, Tay drafted a plan with surgical care. Settle the tenants, stabilize the market block, isolate Akinwale's debts, and present Morayo with a choice that tasted like truth. He stared at the last line. Reveal identity? He left the box unchecked. Far across town, Morayo plotted too. Track the watchman, expose Adisa, beguile the auction board. She did not notice that the house had begun to sound empty, like a drumskin stretched too tight. Morayo hired 2 men to send a message. They waited by the dock's narrow alley, shadows nodded. When Adisa stepped out with a bundle of finished uniforms, they moved. The first grabbed her wrist. The second reached for the bundle. "Let go," Adisa said, voice steady. It only made them laugh. Then a third shadow detached from the dark. Tay. He spoke quietly, and something in his tone unthreaded bravado. The men faltered. Dock workers appeared, rolling up sleeves. The alley suddenly crowded with witnesses and memory. The men scattered like roaches. Adisa set the uniforms down and exhaled. Tay picked up one fallen shirt, dusted it, and handed it back. "You stood," he said. "You arrived," she replied. Their smiles met in the middle, honest and new. News of the failed snare flew home on quick wings. Morayo slapped the table until the salt shaker jumped. Akinwale stared at his hands. "Leave it," he said. "This is getting bigger than us." Morayo's silence was ice on a wound. Tay did one more thing that night. He walked to the river shrine and left an offering. Kola nuts, a folded note, thanking the road that had brought them together and asking for wisdom for what came next. Ms. Kambili served papers at the Ajoki compound, an itemized claim for Adisa's dowry chest and notice of financial review. Morayo laughed too loudly. "We will crush her." Akinwale did not laugh. "We will answer." At the hearing before the local board, Morayo arrived draped in wealth-like armor. Adisa came in a clean indigo wrap and headscarf. Tay sat in the back row, a shadow among many. The board asked questions about the eviction, about the sale, about dowry items logged and vanished. Ms. Kambili's voice was measured. Morayo's grew brittle. When asked who purchased the frontage, an official started to say the holding company's name. Tay's phone vibrated. An urgent text. "A fire at the docks?" He rose to leave, caught Adisa's eye, and gave a small nod. The official misread a page and moved on. The unmasking was postponed by fate and logistics. Outside, the fire turned out to be an electrical short already contained. Tay stood alone by the water, chastened by how easily he might have chosen spectacle, and how stubbornly the universe refused it. He smiled to himself. Rain, not flood. Tay invited Akinwale to a quiet cafe. No entourage, no preface. "You are squeezed by debts," Tay said. "Sell what is left under fair terms and start again somewhere smaller. Or keep sinking." Akinwale's pride curled like old paper. "Who are you to advise me?" Tay met his gaze. "Someone who learned before you." He extended a folder. "Clear accounting, clean exit." "If you agree," Tay added, "you will also return the dowry chest and offer a public apology to Adisa." Akinwale's jaw worked. "Morayo will never allow it." Tay looked past him. "Then you must choose the man you are." Back at the compound, Akinwale surprised himself. "We will return the chest," he told Morayo. She spat words sharp enough to draw blood. "Over my dead—" She stopped when she saw the figures. Reality rearranged her face. "Who is this Tay?" she whispered, suddenly careful. At dusk, the griot sang a different refrain, hopeful and thin. Adisa stood on her balcony at the docks, feeling change like a tide. Tay texted, "Tomorrow the board reconvenes. Be ready." She replied, "I was born ready." His answering smile had nothing to do with victory and everything to do with recognition. The boardroom filled with a low hum. Ms. Cambili summarized, unlawful eviction, missing dowry items, and a negotiated settlement. Adisa stood straight, scarf neatly tied, eyes level. Marayo's gold earrings felt heavy. Akinwale stared at the table as if it might speak mercy. The chair asked the question again. Who purchased the Ajoke frontage? This time, pages were in order. Olumide Holdings, the clerk read. Heads turned as Tay rose, tall, composed, no longer ordinary. Gasps rippled. Marayo laughed once, brittle. A fixer with a fancy name. Tay's voice was calm. Names are shell, conduct is kernel. He outlined his actions. Fair rents, repaired wells, stabilized stalls. I did not do this to humiliate anyone, he said, eyes on Adisa, but to protect what is good and correct what was crooked. He turned to the board. The settlement includes return of Adisa's dowry chest, a public apology, and an agreement that the Ajoke compound will be leased back under terms that favor its tenants, not its vanity. Silence held. Then Akinwale stood. Adisa, he said, voice cracking, I am sorry. Marayo opened her mouth and found no words. The griot's refrain threaded the moment like rain on corrugated tin. After, outside beneath a sky the color of river stone, Tay faced Adisa. I should have told you. She smiled, small and sure. You did, in how you walked. He held out his hand. She took it, not as rescue, but as partnership. Somewhere the baobab sighed. The storm had taught the sky to sing.